I will say all of the anti-feminist things I want.
My first video response to a video response. I'm so excited.
I'm super glad you were that excited to be able to respond to my video. I do feel like the bulk of your response lacked understanding in what I say and why I do what I do.
So let's start off on the right foot, and let me just say, I know your heart is in the right place. I watched a bunch of your videos, and I agree with a lot of what you have to say. I just feel like it's really, really misplaced.
And you're entitled to your opinion to think that my dislike for the feminist movement is misplaced. I feel very differently. As I expressed in the video that you stitched, all the things that feminism currently, modern feminism, ignores about men, there's more to it than just that. There's so much more to it. Modern feminism preaches the strong, independent woman and female empowerment, while at the same time looking at women that choose to be stay-at-home moms, women that choose to be somewhat submissive to their husbands and clean the house and cook the meals because that's what they chose to do. They're preached that that's not enough, that they have to go out and get careers, that they're bowing down to a man when they made a choice to be a traditional housewife. And that's okay, because it was their choice to make. But modern feminism shames women too.
So let's go point by point.
For contextual purposes, I'm going to put my original video throughout in which I'm responding to a comment from Hillary where she warned me to be careful about being anti-feminist. I've been warned that I better be careful about being anti-feminist, but here's the thing. I will say all of the anti-feminist things I want because I believe that modern feminism is extremely harmful to our society as a whole. It does not address the things that feminism was meant to address, which was equality for all humans. I don't see feminists standing on platforms saying, why do male domestic violence survivors have zero support?
You believe that modern feminism is problematic because male domestic violence survivors don't have enough support. I would totally agree they don't have enough support.
Good, we're on the same page on that.
I would also say that they don't come out enough about it.
Glad we agree on that, but I think we both know that men and women don't come forward a lot when they are victims of domestic abuse. And the reason why is they have a fear of retaliation. They have a fear of not being believed. They have a fear for their own safety, and they're shamed for it. Men, no more so than women, are more likely not to come out, but both genders are afraid of speaking out.
But then I would also say a big part of the reason probably has to do with the fact that men shame men into not coming out.
There we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Part of the reason why I don't like feminism. Men shame men, and that's the reason why men don't come out. So it lacks any accountability on women. It lacks any accountability that women have also caused men to sit down and not come out. You know, women raise their sons and tell them to man up and suck it in. They raise their sons that it is not okay. They're bigger, they're stronger, that they need to stand up against women. So when a man is domestically abused, he feels shame. He feels as if he's not enough. And that's just not men doing it to him. That's women that do that. I cannot tell you how many women I've heard say, you know that his wife beat him. He should have stood up. He could have defended himself. But the second he does, he goes to jail. Another reason why men don't come forward is if they stand up and they defend themselves, they're probably going to jail. And when they do come forward, I can't tell you how many stories I've heard from men where they've been told that it's not that big of a deal, you're strong, you can handle it, or the police won't help them press charges, or the police just don't believe them because, well, you're bigger. How did that happen?
I'm a feminist, and I am all for men not enduring any sort of domestic violence. And I don't know a single feminist or a single woman that thinks men should get beat up.
A woman or a man that thinks any human being should be beat up, well, except for the ones that say, well, what did you do to deserve it? Well, what did he do for her to react that way? Well, you know, he cheated on her, and so she reacted, or he was disrespecting her, so she reacted. They may not believe that a human deserves to be domestically abused, but they sure justify it, and particularly within the feminist movement.
But I do know a lot of guys that would shame other guys if they talked about a woman beating them up and that being problematic.
I'll agree that there are men that shame other men, just as there are women that shame women that stay in domestic violence relationships. There are shit in our society, but it's not all men's fault that men don't come out. And you just basically tried to say it was.
Next, you say that women, feminists, aren't talking about 75% of courts giving custody to women.
I don't see feminists standing up and saying, why are our family courts giving 75% of custody to women when fit fathers are spending tens of thousands of dollars?
I don't know how that is a feminist issue.
I thought the definition of feminism was about equality, and particularly equality in the law. And when a court system is biased, how is that not a feminist issue? When there's 60 psychological studies that say that equal shared parenting is in the best interest of the child, and courts are giving 80-20 all the time against the best interest of the child, how is that not a feminist issue?
I don't see the correlation. Feminism has much more to do with making sure that women are propped up and just as equal as men in ways that we weren't.
Exactly. You don't see what that has to do with feminism. But feminism is supposed to be about equality. And the fact that women will use the court system against men to take their children and destroy their mental health and their financial stability isn't a feminist equality, because, as you said, feminism is supposed to be more about propping up women, superiority of women, making sure that women are better. Women are better than men. Is the mathing yet? Are you seeing that? Because if feminism were about equality, it would say, this is not right. And women shouldn't be able to use the courts against good fathers. But it benefits women, so we're going to leave that alone and concentrate on some other things.
We look like we're about the same age, and in both of our lifetime, we actually weren't able to own credit cards. That's fucking nuts. But thanks to feminism and the people that worked really hard, because they were feminists, we can now have credit cards without a man.
I completely and totally agree with you. And I have said it in my content that the original intention of the feminist movement and what feminism was originally fighting for did many amazing things for both men and women. Without feminism, our military veterans wouldn't have the PTSD support and mental health support that they need. That was part of a feminist mission. But that is not modern feminism. That is not propping up women. That was fighting for laws. That was fighting for change. Now, what I see in the feminist movement is fighting for superiority. And that's a big difference. They're trying to swing the pendulum to the opposite side instead of level it back in the middle.
Point is men's suicide rates, that they've been going up. Yeah, mental health is super important. And yeah, we need to address it, whether it's men or women.
Why are suicide rates in men rising and rising? They were 3.63 times higher than women just last summer. And now they're 3.88 times higher than they are in women.
But to blame modern feminism for men's suicide rates is equal, in my mind, to blame modern civil rights activists on men's suicide rates. Like, why aren't civil rights activists talking about men's suicide rates?
But feminists aren't looking at that. There's a large subset of the feminist movement that is screaming, kill all men and I hate all men, and it's all men. I don't blame civil rights for the issues in men. I blame feminism for a lot of the issues in men, and I do blame men for some of their own issues, because men need to be accountable for their own shit too. But with the feminist movement and all of this hatred towards men, why aren't feminists, ones that believe in true equality, standing up and calling out the big, huge feminists on platforms like Drew Affello that does nothing but body shame men? And she justifies it by saying, but they're misogynistic men, they deserve it. But you know what? When you body shame a bald man, you shame all men. When you body shame an overweight man, you shame all overweight men. You bring down men's mental health. But man, 7 million women are cheering her on.
One is the subset of women that you break up that say kill all men and I hate all men. Those people might call themselves feminists. I don't know. They're a messed up group of people.
I agree that they're a messed up group of people, but they are part of the feminist movement. They're part of that extremely radical side. And good feminists aren't calling them out. They're allowing the hatred to continue, because if they were, there would be thousands and thousands and thousands of women on this app calling out Drew Othello. There would be thousands and thousands of women denouncing Clementine Ford, but that's not happening. They're cheering them on as great leaders of the feminist movement and for the empowerment that they give to women. That is feminism. Those are the loudest voices within the movement right now, and that is what the rest of the world sees.
But there's subsets to every group.
I agree there are subsets to every group. So I advocate for men's rights, and I stand on my platform and talk about that, but I will not identify myself with the MRA movement or as an MRA, because there are such extreme radical subsets to the MRA movement that are so incredibly toxic and harmful. That's why I call myself an egalitarian. It's not about a movement. It's about equal rights. And if we all stood together as egalitarians, instead of in these groups that have so much toxicity, we might get a little further in life. And I will look at the issues that are facing men that are being ignored in our society, because it affects me too.
There's a subset of white people that belong to the KKK, yet we don't go around saying that we need to be anti-white.
That is the worst illogical fallacy ever, because when you woke up today, you said, I want to be a feminist. I'm going to be a feminist. You made a choice to do that. When I woke up today, I was white. It's the color of my skin. I was born that way. I had no choice but to be white. You have a choice to be part of a feminist movement where there's extreme toxicity and hatred towards men that are causing a mental health crisis in our country and helping to divide a world dividing us. Men against women, and feminism is a big part of that. And they're bringing men's mental health further and further and further down. And that is a societal problem. And so therefore, I will stand on my platform and say how incredibly harmful feminism is.
Fringe minority groups are very problematic, but that doesn't mean you throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Why is it so important to define yourself as a feminist? Why can't you do the same things? Why can't you advocate for equality? Why can't you advocate for the things that you believe are important to men, women, and society without labeling yourself and attaching yourself to a group full of toxicity? A group that preaches about a patriarchy that can be proven time and time again it doesn't exist, and blames their own actions on the patriarchy, says things like, well, misandry is the result of misogyny, and that's because of the patriarchy. So it doesn't really exist. We're not accountable for it because, well, somebody else did it to us.
So say all the anti-feminist things you want. Go ahead. It's okay. But realize there's a lot of guys watching you that feel like women's rights was a mistake.
I'll say that there are men that watch me that feel like women's rights are a mistake, but there are women that watch feminists and cheer them on because they want superiority, because they think men are less, because they hate all men and they scream kill all men. So go ahead, hate the MRA movement, prop up feminism, but you're creating the same type of people that you're telling me are following me.
And you're emboldening and empowering that group.
And I will look at the issues that are facing men that are being ignored in our society, because it affects me too. I'm not emboldening those men. I speak out against misogynism all the time on my account. I call out misogynistic men. And when I do, I have a shit ton of good men that stand behind me and call those men out. There are misogynistic men that enter my comments thinking that we're going to be big supporters. And men tell them all the time where they're wrong. Good men are standing up against misogyny. Unfortunately, there are misogynistic men, just as there is misandristic hate within the feminist movement. Hence, the movement itself has poison in it, just as the MRA movement has poison in it. And that's why I'll stand on my platform every day as an egalitarian and fight for what I think is right. And I see men's issues and not enough people address them or talk about them.